What happens when a seasoned U.S. senator known for dominating conversations interrupts a freshman congresswoman 6 times in one exchange, only to be silenced by a single, devastatingly sharp response? That's exactly what happened when Senator Ted Cruz went toe-to-toe with Representative Jasmine Crockett. He interrupted her again and again, trying to steer the spotlight, but in the end, Crockett delivered a cold, shocking response that ended the back and forth and flipped the power dynamic in front of everyone. Here's something that might surprise you. Studies show that in heated debates or meetings, men are 2.6 times more likely to interrupt women than the other way around. In politics, where time is limited and optics matter, interruptions aren't just rude, they're a power play. So when Cruz kept cutting Crockett off 6 times in one exchange, it wasn't just about disagreement, it was about control. But what makes this moment so extraordinary is how Crockett handled it. Instead of shrinking back, instead of losing her cool, she delivered a response so final and unshakable that it left even her critics stunned. Imagine you are at work presenting your big idea in front of your team. You've prepared, you've done the research, you are ready, but every time you start talking, a co-worker interrupts. Actually, let me clarify that. No, that is not how it works. What she is really trying to say is, you're cut off once, twice, 3 times until you lose track. By the 5th or 6th time, your frustration is boiling over. You can either lash out in anger and look unprofessional, or you can find a way to end it once and for all on your terms. That's the choice Crockett faced in real time, and the way she handled it is a masterclass in power under pressure. We've all been there. In school, when your hand goes up and you re-ignored while others keep talking over you. At work, when your contributions are drowned out by louder voices. Even at home during family discussions where interruptions feel like dismissal. It's not just about being cut off. It's about feeling invisible, overlooked, or dismissed. And that sting, that loss of respect, cuts deep. That's why this clash between Cruz and Crockett resonates with so many Americans. Because her final response wasn't just about politics. It was about standing your ground, demanding respect, and proving that even under a barrage of interruptions, your voice can and will be heard. And here's the best part: by the end of this breakdown, you will know exactly how. Crockett turned constant interruption into her ultimate moment of power. We'll explore why interruptions are more than just bad manners. They're a strategy. The biggest mistakes people make when trying to handle them, the myth about talking louder that almost always backfires, the 2-step strategy Crockett used that anyone, yes, even you, can apply in work, school, or personal life. And finally, the golden nugget, the ultimate secret that made her final response unforgettable. Stick around, because what Crockett pulled off in that exchange isn't just a viral political moment. It's a life lesson on how to command respect when someone keeps trying to silence you. On the surface, this might look like just another fiery political exchange. Senator Ted Cruz, the seasoned Republican heavyweight, interrupting freshman Democrat Jasmine Crockett multiple times during a heated hearing. But for millions of Americans watching it, symbolize something deeper. Interruptions aren't just about words, they about power. When someone cuts you off again and again, it sends a message. Your voice doesn't matter as much as mine. And that message hits hard, whether you're in Congress, in a classroom, or sitting around the dinner table. This is why Crockett's shocking final response is so important, because she didn't just shut down Cruz. She showed every American what it looks like to reclaim your voice after being dismissed, sidelined, and talked over. In a time when respect feels harder and harder to come by in politics, in workplaces, even in families, this moment carries lessons that go way beyond Washington, D.C. Let's be real. American culture is loud. From political debates to cable news shows to social media arguments, everyone is trying to talk over each other. But underneath the noise is a basic human desire, the need to be heard. And here is the kicker. When people don't feel heard, resentment builds. That is true for voters, ignored by politicians, workers, overlooked by bosses, or kids, tuned out by parents. That is why this Cruz versus Crockett clash isn't just entertainment. It's a mirror reflecting the frustration so many people feel in their daily lives when they re-interrupted, ignored, or drowned out. We are going to take this viral moment apart piece by piece, and along the way you will get tools you can use the next time someone tries to silence you. First, We'll identify the problem. We'll look at the deeper mistake people make when they face interruptions, and why most of us get it wrong. Next, we'll bust a myth. Many believe the best way to stop an interrupter is to talk louder or fight back with the same energy. We'll explain why that almost always backfires. Then we'll break down Solution 1. This is the strategy Crockett used to stay calm and collected, even as Cruz cut her off again and again. After that, Solution 2. We'll uncover how Crockett didn't just hold her ground, but used her final response to turn the tables completely, leaving Cruz with nowhere to go. And finally, the golden nugget. The ultimate secret behind why her response resonated with so many Americans, and how you can use the same principle in your life to win respect, no matter the setting. You might be thinking, okay, but I am not in politics. Why does this matter to me? Here's the truth: you don't have to be in Congress to face your own Ted Cruz. At work, it's the co-worker who cuts you off in EV. Eerie meeting at school, it is the classmate who dominates group projects. At home, it is the family member who interrupts before you finish a sentence. These moments test you. Do you shrink? Do you blow up? Or do you find a way to end it on your terms? Crockett showed us that it is possible to do the third, and do it with style, composure, and impact. So as we move forward, remember this isn't just about Cruz and Crockett. It is about you. It is about what happens when your voice is challenged. It is about how you respond when someone refuses to let you finish. It is about whether you let interruptions silence you, or whether you turn them into your most powerful moment. By the end of this video, you will not only understand why Crockett's final response stunned Cruz, but you will also walk away with practical tools you can use the next time someone tries to talk over you. Because here's the truth: you deserve to be heard. And when you master these strategies, you will. When someone interrupts us, our first instinct is almost always wrong. We want to jump back in, talk louder, or prove our point immediately. But that reaction doesn't solve the problem, it fuels it. If someone keeps cutting you off and you respond by yelling over them, what happens? You both get louder. The conversation spirals, and suddenly, instead of making progress, you are in a verbal tug-of-war where nobody actually listens. That's exactly why so many people watched Senator Ted Cruz's repeated interruptions of Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett with frustration. Because it wasn't just about politics, it was about a pattern that almost everyone has faced: being silenced, dismissed, or cut short. And here is the key mistake most people make in these moments. They confuse reacting with responding. Picture this: you're in a work meeting. You've been preparing all week for this presentation. Your slides are polished, and you finally start explaining your idea. Then it happens. Pens. Someone cuts in. Maybe it is the loud co-worker who thinks they know better. Maybe it's the boss who never seems to let anyone finish. Suddenly your train of thought is derailed. You lose your rhythm, and the worst part, people remember their interruption, not your idea. How does that feel? Frustrating? Yes. Disrespectful? Absolutely. But more than that, it chips away at your confidence. And if it happens enough times, you start doing something dangerous. You stop speaking up altogether. Have you ever been interrupted so many times that you just gave up and stayed quiet? Did you ever walk away from a conversation thinking, wow, I never even got to finish my thought? If you answered yes, you are not alone. Millions of Americans know that feeling all too well. But while it feels personal, interruptions aren't always about you. Sometimes they about control. Sometimes they about insecurity. And sometimes they about power dynamics. Just like we saw when Cruz tried to dominate the conversation, interruptions send a subtle but strong message. What I have to say is more important than what you are saying, and our brains react to that message. Psychologists have found that constant interruptions trigger feelings of rejection and exclusion, the same feelings people get when they are ignored in social groups. That explains why interruptions feel so much bigger than just lost words. They feel like lost respect, and once we feel disrespected, we either shut down or lash out. Neither response actually works. Here is a funny twist. In 2017, a study out of George Washington University found that people who interrupt others often believe they are showing engagement. That's right, some interrupters actually think they are helping the conversation by jumping in. Imagine that you are sitting there fuming because someone just cut you off, and meanwhile they patting themselves on the back for being such an active listener. It's almost laughable until you realize how damaging that misunderstanding can be. Because whether the interrupter thinks they are helping or not, the impact is the same. You lose your voix. Ice. The big mistake is reacting instead of responding. When we react, we're reacting on emotion. We raise our voice. We talk faster. Or we cut the interrupter right back. It feels good in the moment, but it rarely changes the dynamic. When we respond, though, we pause. We hold our ground. We show that our words matter, and we don't have to fight for airtime. We command it. That is what Jasmine Crockett modeled in her shocking final response. She didn't just react to Cruz. As 6 interruptions, she responded with precision, calmness, and strength. And that S, the turning point most of us miss in our own lives. Interruptions don't just happen in hearings or debates. They happen at work, at home, even in classrooms. And the way we handle them doesn't just affect the conversation, it affects how others see us. If you let interruptions silence you, people might think your ideas aren't strong enough. If you fight interruptions aggressively, people might label you as hostile or difficult. But if you handle interruptions with composure and confidence, people see you as a leader. That's the real impact here. Crockett's final response wasn't just a political win, it was a masterclass in leadership communication. So how do you usually respond when someone interrupts you? Do you push back, stay silent, or try to talk over them? Think about it honestly, because the way you answer says a lot about how you navigate respect in your own life. The problem is clear. Most of us get interruptions wrong because we focus on the immediate emotion instead of the long-term impact. We think the goal is to win the moment when really the goal is to win back our voice. That is what Crockett did against Cruz. And in the next section we are going to take this even deeper, because there's a huge myth about interruptions that almost everyone believes, and it's keeping us stuck. Here is the myth. Most people believe the best way to stop an interrupter is to shout them. It feels logical, right? If someone keeps talking over you, you raise your voice, double down, and force your way back into the conversation. But here is the shocking truth that strategy almost always fails. Why? Because when you match interruption with interruption, you don't look stronger, you look reactive. The original point gets lost in the noise, and the audience, whether it's a boardroom, a classroom, or a congressional hearing, walks away remembering the clash, not your message, that's the exact trap Cruz wanted Crockett to fall into. And it's the trap most of us fall into every single day. Imagine Sarah, a young professional working in a fast-paced tech company. She's presenting her proposal in a big team meeting when her boss keeps interrupting with quick questions that derail her pitch. At first, Sarah tries to keep calm, but by the 4th interruption she snaps. She raises her voice, talks over him, and insists, "Let me finish." What happens? The boss, feeling challenged, pushes back harder. The room gets tense. And even though Sarah's proposal was strong, the takeaway from that meeting isn't her idea. It is the awkward clash. This is why the myth of fight fire with fire fails. You might win the moment, but you lose the influence. It feels like shouting back should work, because when someone interrupts us, our brain interprets it as a threat. The amygdala, the part of the brain that processes danger, lights up, and when that happens, our instinct is to fight back, to protect ourselves. That's why yelling, cutting in, or snapping feels so natural in the moment. It's biology. But biology doesn't always win arguments. Strategy does. And strategy is exactly what Jasmine Crockett demonstrated. When Ted Cruz interrupted Crockett, not once, not twice, but 6 times in a single exchange, she had 2 choices. She could try to outshout him, which would have created a messy, forgettable shouting match. Or she could hold her ground. Let him reveal himself and then deliver a final response that cut through all the noise. She chose option 2, and that's why her final word. Es landed like a hammer, because by resisting the myth of fighting interruption with interruption, she flipped the power dynamic completely, believing the myth doesn't just fail in politics. It fails in everyday American life too. In classrooms, kids who yell back when interrupted are seen as disruptive, even if they were right. In workplaces, employees who try to outshout managers risk being labeled unprofessional. In families, shouting matches over dinner don't lead to resolution, they lead to resentment. Outshouting doesn't earn you respect. It drains it. That's why it's so important to break this myth once and for all. Be honest, have you ever tried to win against an interrupter by talking louder or cutting them off, only to have it backfire? Did it actually get your point across, or did it just escalate the tension? If you've been there, you know exactly why this myth needs busting. The alternative is composure as power. The real way to silence an interrupter isn't by raising your voice, it is by raising your presence. When you stay calm, when you let them run out of steam, and when you come back with a composed, sharp response, you shift the spotlight. Suddenly the interrupter looks frantic, while you look like the voice of reason, that S leadership, that S influence, and that S what Crockett pulled off in her final response. The number one tool Jasmine Crockett used to handle Ted Cruz wasn't to anger aggression or outshouting him. It was composure. In high-pressure conversations, whether it's a heated congressional hearing, a tough work meeting, or even a family argument, composure is power. Why? Because while the interrupter is trying to rattle you, your calmness exposes their lack of control. When Crockett refused to let Cruz's interruptions throw her off, she flipped the power dynamic. She showed the audience and Cruz himself that she wasn't going to play by his rules, and that's why her final response landed so hard. So how do you master composure when you re-interrupted? Here are the steps. Crockett modeled, paused on, T-pounce. When Cruz interrupted, she didn't immediately try to talk over him. She paused, let him reveal himself, and kept her energy steady. Hold your ground physically. Body language speaks louder than words. Crockett kept her posture upright, her expression controlled and her tone even. That non-verbal confidence said, "I'm not going anywhere." Choose your words carefully. Instead of escalating, she waited until she had the floor back and delivered a sharp, calculated response. That's what made it sting. Stay audience-focused. Crockett wasn't just talking to Cruz, she was talking to everyone watching. By keeping composure, she came across as the adult in the room, and Cruz came across as the disruptive one. Picture yourself at a family dinner. You are trying to explain your side of a situation, but your outspoken uncle keeps cutting you off. You feel the urge to snap, to yell, "Can you let me finish?" But instead, you take Crockett's approach. You pause. You keep your voice calm. You let him finish his interruption. Then you lean in and say, "I hear you, but I wasn't finished." Suddenly the room shifts. Your uncle looks rude and you look composed. You didn't just win the interruption, you won respect. Here is the psychological reason composure is so powerful. Humans mirror each other. When one person gets heated, others often follow. But when one person stays calm, they set the tone. Crockett understood this dynamic by staying composed. While Cruz got louder and more aggressive, she highlighted the contrast between them. He looked frantic. She looked in control. That's not just politics, that's communication science. The last time someone interrupted you, did you react or did you respond? Did you keep your composure, or did you let the frustration take over? Be honest. Awareness is the first step toward change. This isn't just about political theater, it is about everyday success. At work, the employee who stays calm when interrupted during a meeting isn't just respected, they are seen as a leader. At school, the student who doesn't get flustered when a classmate cuts in looks sharp and confident, with money negotiating a raise. If you get interrupted and stay calm, you send the signal that you're steady under pressure, exactly the kind of person who deserves advancement. Composure translates into real results. Research from the Harvard Business Review shows that calm communicators are rated as more competent than their louder, more aggressive counterparts. even if the loud ones are saying the exact same thing. That means it's not always what you say that earns respect. It is how you say it. Crockett intuitively tapped into this truth. And you can too. Here, it's a quick hack. You can use starting today. The 3-second rule. When someone interrupts you, resist the urge to react right away. Count to 3 silently before you respond. That pause prevents you from snapping, gives you control over your tone, and signals confidence to everyone listening. Try it the next time someone cuts you off. You'll be amazed at how powerful that pause feels. Now, composure is the foundation, but it is not the whole story. In Section 6, we are going to uncover Solution 2. How Crockett used her words, not just her calmness, to turn the tables on Cruz completely. Staying calm is one thing, but landing a final blow that ends the interruptions for good takes a second level of strategy. If Solution 1 was all about staying calm under fire, Solution 2 is about what you do next. Composure keeps you steady, but it doesn't end the interruptions. Crockett took it a step further. She used her final words to flip the entire exchange on its head. This wasn't a just defense. It was offense. This wasn't a just holding her ground. It was owning the ground. And she didn't fight Cruz with volume. She fought him with precision. Cruz had already interrupted Crockett multiple times, 6 in total. The tension in the room was rising. At that point, most people would have cracked. They would have either shut down or lashed out, but Crockett didn't do either. Instead, she waited. She let the pattern of interruptions speak for itself, and when the moment was right, she delivered a measured, cutting response that left Cruz with nothing to add. That final comeback wasn't just words. It was a statement. You can interrupt me, but you can silence me. And that says why it stunned the room, because it wasn't too loud. It was decisive. So how do you replicate Crockett's strategy in your own life? Here's the formula. Stay patient. Let the interrupter reveal themselves. The more they cut you off, the more obvious their behavior becomes to others. Wait for your opening. Don T. Fawcett. When the room quiets down, step in with clarity. Deliver a crisp, undeniable response. Make it short. Make it sharp. Make it impossible to interrupt again. That's exactly what Crockett did. And that's why her final response ended it. Imagine you are in a work meeting again. A colleague keeps interrupting you while you're representing. You stay calm, but when the floor opens back up, you say, "I appreciate the feedback, but I need to finish my thought. Let me complete my point so we can all evaluate it fully." Boom, you didn't yell. You didn't get flustered. You calmly reclaimed your voice. And now the interrupter looks out of line. Interruptions thrive on chaos. When someone keeps cutting in, they are trying to throw you off balance. But when you reclaim the floor with a decisive, measured statement, you don't just get your point across. You expose the interrupter's behavior for what it is, disruptive and unproductive. Audiences love clarity. Whether it is co-workers, classmates, or even family members, people remember the person who ends the noise with a clean, confident point. That's what Crockett gave us. Clarity after chaos. Communication researchers have found that audiences remember the last thing said in a heated exchange more than anything else. All those interruptions forgettable, but Crockett's last shocking response, that the moment millions remember. Use that fact to your advantage. If you land the final word, you control the takeaway. Here is a hack. Develop a go-to-closer. That's a short phrase you can use anytime you need to reclaim your voice after an interruption. Examples. I hear you, but I need to finish my thought. Let me complete this point, then we can circle back. I'll finish briefly and then I'm happy to hear your perspective. These aren't confrontational, they re-controlled, and because they re-short, they land hard. That's the Crockett method in action. What would your final word be if someone kept interrupting you? Do you already have a phrase you use, or would one of these hacks work for you? Think about it, because the next time it happens, you will want to be ready. We've covered two powerful solutions, composure and the final word, Together they re-game changers. But there's one more layer, the deeper reason. Crockett's response resonated so powerfully across the country. It's not just about communication. It is about something bigger. Respect, resilience, and the human need to be heard. Here's the golden nugget. Jasmine Crockett. Shocking final response worked because it wasn't just about silencing Cruz. It was about showing every American that respect isn't given it's claimed. We live in a world where voices are constantly fighting for airtime. The loudest person doesn't always have the best ideas, but too often they dominate anyway. Crockett's final response flipped that script. She proved you don't need to be the loudest to be the most powerful. You just need to be the clearest, calmest, and most confident. How many times in your own life have you walked away from a conversation? Frustrated because you weren't heard. Maybe it was in a meeting, maybe in a classroom, maybe even in your own home. Crockett's response resonated so deeply because she lived that frustration publicly and then showed us how to rise above it. She didn't let interruptions define her. She defined herself, and in doing so, she gave voice to millions who've been silenced. The ultimate takeaway: interruption is inevitable, but silence is optional. You can't always stop people from cutting you off. You can control their behavior, but you can control your response. And when your response is calm, clear, and powerful, you turn the interruption into your platform. That is what Crockett did. That is what you can do too. Whether you are a teacher trying to command attention in a noisy classroom, an employee pitching a new idea to your boss, or a parent trying to have a serious talk at the dinner table, the principle is the same. Respect comes not from volume, but from presence. And presence is built on composure, clarity, and the confidence to claim your space. Hold on to this. Your voice matters. Your ideas matter. And no matter how many times someone interrupts you, you always have the power to end it on your terms. That's the heart of Crockett's shocking response, and that's the golden nugget you can carry into every conversation from now on. We've seen the moment, we've unpacked the strategies, and we've revealed the ultimate secret. How do we wrap it all up and carry this energy forward? We've traveled through one of the most gripping political showdowns to hit the spotlight recently. Ted Cruz, known for his aggressive style, interrupted Jasmine Crockett 6 different times, trying to cut her off, derail her points, and dominate the exchange. But Crockett didn't just survive those interruptions. She owned the moment. Here is what we learned. Problem identification. Too often in American life, interruptions and dismissive tactics drown out real voices. Crockett's experience is something millions of us relate to, whether in the workplace, at school, or even at the family dinner table. Myth breaking. We busted the myth that the loudest voice is the most powerful. Crockett proved that calm clarity beats chaos every time. Solution 1. One of the best tools you can use when being interrupted is composure. By staying grounded, Crockett turned every attempt to silence her into a stepping stone for her final response. Solution 2. Stories and emotional truths carry more weight than arguments. Crockett's ultimate response didn't just silence Cruz. It resonated because it spoke to deeper values of fairness and respect. Golden nugget. The ultimate lesson is this. Interruption is inevitable, but silence is optional. You always have the power to reclaim your space, finish your thought, and show strength through calm conviction. This wasn't just about politics. It was about how ordinary Americans handle power dynamics every day. Whether you're in a boardroom, a classroom, or your own living room, the truth is the same. Your voice matters. Crockett's moment was a mirror showing us we don't have to cave under pressure, even when faced with someone louder, more persistent, or more aggressive. If Jasmine Crockett can hold her ground in front of millions of people while being interrupted by one of the most forceful senators in the country, then you can hold your ground in your own life too. Your voice is your power. Don't let anyone take it from you. Have you ever been interrupted in a way that left you frustrated? How did you handle it? And what do you wish you had done differently? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might inspire someone else who needs the courage to stand strong in their own moment. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit the like button to support the channel. Subscribe for more powerful political moments and the lessons we can all take from them. And don't forget to share this video with a friend who needs to hear that their voice matters. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about politics. It's about power presence and the unstoppable strength of staying true to yourself.